Hi guys, this is Dr. Bhasha Mukherjee. If you're new here, I am a GP trainee, former Miss England and media commentator. Majority of my page is mainly things that I've been doing recently, which has been media commentating on various medical topics, including politics. But this one is a special one because it is a life update video and it is 3 years out of date, but what better day to do it than on New Year's Eve of 2024. It might not come out on this day. I thought it would be a good way to wrap up the year and catch up on what's been going on in my life, get you guys up to date as well. So here goes. So first and foremost, I am going to sanitize my hands. I think the last time I did a get ready with me / life update was 2-3 years ago. So this is long overdue. And if you've been still following me on my page, then you know that I have been doing a lot of content around the stuff that I've been doing in media, especially doctor content, media, politics, anything concerning, medical topics in the news, that sort of thing. And that's what I've been posting on my channels recently. That's kind of what's been going on in my life in general, but let's reel back. I'm going to start off by moisturizing with the CeraPrep Brightening Moisturizer by Dr. V. I don't know if that's taking focus. There we go. A lot has changed in life since the last time I did one of these sit-down videos. As you can see, I am a lot older, visibly. It's been 3 years and my body, my hair, my skin, everything has changed. I think the last time I was catching up with you guys, I was at the end of my foundation years and about a year on from having been Miss England. Obviously, that's always going to be a big part of my journey. But obviously, it's not the only part of my journey. I think a big part of my journey is also the fact that I'm a doctor and I have ambition. I'm into lots of different things. And life changes, definitely changes. I think 3 years ago, where I thought I would be is completely different to where I think I want to be now. I was very into the idea of getting fully into the line of media and pursuing that. And that's what kind of led me to move to London. Got a GP job in London, a training post in London. And that was supposed to be starting, I think it was 2022. 2022 was when I was supposed to be starting my job in London. And I'm a Midland girl. Always thought of London as this big city with lots of exciting things, and I thought my life's going to be so different when I moved there. And it was, but not in the airy-fairy, all happy story as I thought it might be. In fact, it was quite a big adjustment, to be honest. And life in London is just so different in terms of it's really busy. There's so many people. It's noisier, so much more noisier. It's less green. I mean, Midlands is where I'm from. It's not even that green, but London just feels so much more concretey and kind of visual clutter in terms of cars everywhere, people everywhere, not enough green, empty spaces. And that's something I was used to. I forgot to show you my primer that I used, and that was the Stila One Step Correct right here. Now I'm going to go in with my Fenty Beauty stick, foundation stick. I've been recently really into these sticks. They're so simple, and as you can see, my skin has been suffering mainly from the Christmas eating, bad eating, that sort of thing. So I think I need to get back into a routine, sleep on time. I've been going to bed at like 3 a.m. every night for this past 1 week. So, but I really like this Fenty stick because it really covers everything up in pretty much one swipe. And because it's a New Year's thing, I'm gonna have to, cake it up a little bit just because I'll be sweating through this. And it doesn't help that I now live in 2 different postcodes. And that's been the case for the last 2.5-3 years now, which itself was a big transition, to be honest, living between 2 postcodes, having half my things here in Derby, half my things up in London, and emotionally as well, sort of not being able to really belong in one place. That was a big adjustment. But the idea was really to sort of get quickly onto the the property ladder. That was always part of the plan. I wanted to be able to have passive income so I could then dedicate more of my time to essentially doing what I love, which at the time I thought, well, it's clearly media because I really enjoy that. But actually over time, the more and more I sort of got into medicine itself, ironically, the more I've sort of got into the depths of it, purely because that is literally the requirement of being a good doctor, passing your exams and progressing, is that you have to, that the system kind of forces you to get more and more into the system itself by just purely learning more, studying more, getting involved and stuff. And they kind of make it a point that you have to get involved. Essentially, the whole process of that has really changed my priorities. Sorry guys, I also don't have a mirror to actually kind of use as a makeup mirror whilst I'm filming. So you might see this broken mirror that literally a piece of mirror that I have from my brother's room that I'm using at the moment. Anyway, so yeah, I think moving to London really helped me to gain perspective on what was important to me. And all the things that seemed like novelty at the time, especially the world of media, all of those novelties slowly started fading. So that's what it was like, I would say, for the first 6 months, definitely, where I was really struggling to find that sense of belonging in London. And I would suggest this to anybody who's moving cities, that it probably takes about 6 months for you to really kind of get to understand a city. I think initially I thought this is it, this is going to be my life, but actually after about the first 6 months, I would say I did find my ground. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to do was find a sense of belonging, and I knew I had to build something in London for me to feel that sense of belonging there. So one thing I did was I started training martial arts again there. I moved clubs, which was a big step for me because I was so loyal to my club in Derby, Combat Kinetics. And it took me a while to get into the rhythm of things with that club itself, but that really helped to kind of root me into London. Then following that, I was thinking about, how can I make my experience at work better? And one thing I realized was that I enjoy exercise. I really want to give that back to people. I thought, on a whim, pretty much, why don't I find a way to include people that I work with in something that I enjoy, which is exercise? So what then I did it next was essentially, I had an idea. So I really like music, I really like dancing. Why don't I try and see if we can do like a dance class or some sort of Zumba or something like this at work, with people at work, and that way I will not have to essentially pay for a Zumba class or something like that, but actually I can do two in one. And this was really important for me because at the time I was really struggling to get into an exercise routine or sort of get into some sort of something to kind of get me back into it. And I thought a good way for me to get back into it would be to just essentially start teaching other people and doing it with other people. So I just remember sort of writing to the CEO of my job at the time, and I said, I really want to start something for the staff here. I want to start something that involves fitness, so it encourages people here that I'm working with to get into exercise as well. What can I do? How can I start it? And I remember my CEO of the workplace I was working at the time simply signposted me to the wellbeing team, and that's where it started. And the first thing my wellbeing team said at the time after moving into London was, you can't do this because you don't have a license, and we don't have this, you don't have a sports insurance. Basically, the first reaction they gave me was negative. And that to me felt really disconcerting because I was still finding my feet in London. I had moved here, not really started doing anything in the field of media yet properly. I just still didn't feel a belonging. I didn't feel like a sense of home here yet. And I was keeping getting these negative feedbacks, which just wasn't helping. It took me a while, but I bounced back from it and I asked her, well, okay, you're telling me this is why I can't do it. Tell me, give me a solution. How can I get myself there? What do I need to do to get myself there? And at the time I was reading quite a lot of How to Make Friends and Influence People, that book I was reading. And that was influencing how I was sort of going about my life as well, and kind of dealing with these negative experiences. But thankfully, that did result in a positive response, because this well-being team person, they did respond with a solution. Essentially, what they did is they gave me a list of things that I needed to do, including a Zumba license and become a trained Zumba instructor and get a sports insurance. And initially I thought she expected me to basically to get this off my own back. But I think one of the things that I've learned from reading all these books is if you don't ask, you don't get. So I decided to ask them, well, I'm happy to do this. Do you think if I offer Zumba classes, free Zumba for staff, will the well-being budget or the charity or the hospital pay for me to get my license fee covered and my insurance covered? And that was purely for me to get into it myself, mainly. That was my main driver, was that I wanted to get into exercise. A way for me to feel a sense of belonging would be to do it with other people and build a community there. And that was my sort of motivation. And lo and behold, they said yes. That then resulted in me getting a Zumba license, becoming a trained Zumba instructor, getting an insurance, and starting, I would say, paving the path for me to change that narrative that I was talking about, of thinking that the reason I was in London, the reason and the purpose of my life was to pursue a field of media, with obviously like my interest in medicine being there regardless. But it was this narrative change of getting involved, assimilating into the NHS structure, emailing people, emailing the CAO and things like that, feeling brave enough to approach those people. I think that changed that narrative in my head of feeling like, yes, things can happen. I do belong here. I can make a change. I can become and assimilate and become a part of something other than, you know, how I'd always led my life, which was pretty much sort of like kind of almost separate. Like my work life would be separate and my kind of media life, that would be completely separate. So yeah, that was kind of, I would say, a really pivotal moment, starting the Zumba there. Because when I moved jobs again, because we have to move in SD1, definitely you have to move every 6 months to different trusts. So I moved to a different hospital, started my A&E job there. And in this A&E job, I also felt, okay, well, I did it in one hospital. Let me try and see if I can make it happen in this new hospital that I'm working at. And it worked again, because I used the same strategy of, if you don't ask, you never find out, you know? So you don't get. So I asked and they said yes. And that's how I sort of started the Zumba there as well. And I would say after the first 6 months of living in London, that's when things really started turning. I was feeling really this sense of achievement, and genuinely people were treating me differently at work, regardless of what they knew about me, whether it was Miss England, media, whatever. They were treating me differently purely because of me assimilating in this way, giving something back to the community in this way. So yeah, I mean, my life was changing, and considering how many hours of the day you spend at work, it's so important to have a sense of belonging at work that is separate to whatever you do outside of work. And it's really important. I've always said that you should do something outside of work as well and have your own identity. That's not just what you do at work. But actually, I realized the importance of actually having something that roots you to the place of work that you work at, essentially. That turning point then really helped me kind of get back into the things that I then loved, which was media, which I was starting to kind of neglect almost. I was feeling like can't be bothered with this anymore. As a result of not feeling happy, not feeling very sense of kind of belonging in London, etc. But yeah, it came back to me once I kind of set those things in motion, essentially. So yeah, after the first 6 months, I started looking for a house with my partner, which was kind of, again, a big part of our move there. We wanted to set our roots in London, essentially buy a home there, so you know we both could pursue a future in London careeristically, but also for financial reasons as well. In general, like, you know, I think it's pretty well known that the capital is a good place to invest. So yeah, it was a really long process of looking for houses, to be honest. And that's a whole different story altogether. I won't go too much into it. So it took us almost, I would say, from the point that we started looking for the houses and to the point that we actually ended up getting the keys to our first home, it was a whole year. Okay, so that tells you really. I don't know what it's like for other people. It was our first home, so you know, and it was London, big budget, that sort of thing. So I don't know what it's like for other people. If that is kind of the norm, then please do let me know in the comments. But I felt that that's a really long time to kind of keep looking. You know, the first half of ST1 was me finding myself, the first 6 months of being a GP, essentially, well, a GP trainee, essentially. The second half, I really started to find myself. And then when it was coming to the kind of ST2, that was when I thought I'm going to sit my exam. I started studying for the exam, the first GP exam that we have to do. I moved jobs again because we have to, yeah? And I would say that initially for the first 2-3 months, big adjustment problem. I was in the world of GP, which is so different to A&E, so different to psych, so different to hospital. I had done GP before, but London GP is a whole different ballgame. And I had female bosses, which, let me tell you, if you had male bosses and then you get a female boss, especially in the world of GP, there's a world of difference, like so different. And that comes down to, like, women are generally much more micromanagerial. They're also too caring sometimes, which is really nice because as a GP, you do want to care for your patients, but that does sometimes mean that things can go overboard in terms of, it can lead to burnout if you care too much at work. And this is something a male GP had once told me, that you can't care about everything and you have to draw boundaries and you have to draw a line somewhere, you know. But after I'd finished my exam, again, I want to do ideally a video on my AKT exam, which is the first exam of the GP program, training program. That's going to be a separate video. That was a whole ordeal in itself, but it was a big step for me to pass that exam and get really good marks, because again, it consolidated to me that me as a professional, as a professional medic, also held value. And this is something that I always told myself, that I'm good at the media stuff, but I think I'm a bit thick when it comes to medicine. But actually this exam consolidated, and prior to this the MSRA consolidated, that actually it wasn't me that was thick, it was actually the environment that I was in that was not conducive to my learning and not conducive to me being my best self, which was university. And I still stand by that university isn't for everybody, and it's definitely a little bit of a scam. If my job didn't require me to go to university to essentially be here, I probably wouldn't have gone to uni. And if I ever have a child, I probably would ask them to explore all other alternatives than university. Now I'm using the Laura Mercier setting powder, but actually it's in this shade. It's interesting because this now doubles as both a setting powder and a sort of like a kind of like a bronzer. And I'm going to use this Bare Minerals brush. It's called the Seamless Shaping Finish brush. I'm just going to kind of do that here. So yeah, ST2, I would say there was like before exam, after exam Bhasha. And I was very lucky to have a supervisor who initially I was a bit skeptical of, because previously I hadn't really had the best experience with, I would say, female supervisors. And I thought this is going to be another repetition of that instance where I'm not going to have the best time, they're not going to get me, they're not going to understand my ambition. But one thing I noticed, which is so different in London as compared to the Midlands, which is where I genuinely think that where you are makes a big difference. Because I still remember the first time I had a supervisor, not the first one, but probably the second one in F1, and I had told them about wanting a career in medicine and also one in media, and how I was really into the idea of it. And this supervisor literally said, oh, you know, I had a trainee who was really into rearing sheep. And she compared wanting to be a media doctor to having a hobby like rearing sheep. I understand maybe what she meant was that, oh yeah, you can have a life outside medicine, but in my head it felt very tone deaf that she said that, and it clearly showed that she didn't understand it. Moreover, she was Caucasian. She really didn't understand when people were being racist and discriminatory towards me because of my media background. She just could not grasp this. So I think I was kind of carrying the baggage of something like that, and I thought my supervisor's going to be like that. But I was in for a surprise because my supervisors were actually completely different. I still remember the first, and I genuinely think that some part of that is to do with London, because even my first supervisor in the first year of GP training was a gentleman who was doing media himself. He was also doing aesthetics himself, and he also had a parallel business on the side. So I felt like it was a perfect match. But I went on to realise that it's actually quite common in GP land, but also in London, for people to have, kind of private ventures that they do on the side, and be a little bit more exposed to the world of media, because, I mean, come on, London is the media hub essentially. But yeah, this supervisor of mine, she reminded me of myself. She was energetic, enthusiastic. I mean, I really would describe her as almost parallel of a Duracell bunny. And you know, sometimes when you're around people, they have certain energy which is infectious, and they bring out that in you. When I shared with her my intent to want to do something to improve staff well-being, because I'd done something like that in my previous jobs, she was all over it. And that was just the most transformational part of my journey in GP. As I said, I started off feeling very micromanaged in this GP practice. There were lots of things that were not great about this place, but having a supervisor like her who really saw my potential, who really wanted to kind of bring me out of my shell, and really saw my vision and saw the potential in it, and actually amplified it. And that's where I did my QI project in staff wellbeing in my GP practice in ST2. That was the transformational point for me, again in terms of feeling that assimilation, that belonging. That really brought me out of my shell, feeling more confident in approaching people, in doing QI work, speaking to PCNs and other GPs and managers, and asking about budget and things like that. Thinking outside the scope of my role as a GP trainee, and behaving less like a trainee and more like a partner, or more like an entrepreneur. Basically feeling like I was more than what I was, essentially. And at the same time, I would say the beginning half of this year was a real big turning point for me, from an all over direction. As I said, I did my AKT exam. I got that confidence back in myself, in terms of not thinking of myself as someone who was thick and bad at academia. And I still remember, after I finished that exam, I went on a holiday, came back from the holiday, and my supervisor asked me, what next? I hadn't thought about what next. I decided to think about the QI project, about staff well-being, and that is a whole other topic. I promise you, these are all videos that are hopefully coming up soon. And then this other really big life-changing thing, which I then decided to do, which again is going to be another topic altogether and a separate video. And when that revelation comes, you will find out about it. But yeah, big life-changing things. And it's interesting because I think I must have been giving off an aura around this time, because I was so happy. I was attracting lots of really interesting projects. I also landed the role of essentially being a cabinet member for the Sun political cabinet, basically, where they were going to discuss the political stuff that was going on at the time, running up to the elections, essentially. And bear in mind, prior to this, I was nothing close to interested in politics or anything like that at all. The only thing I was doing now and then was sort of getting involved in the junior doctor strike conversations on kind of media outlets and things like that, which also came very much randomly in my life at the time. By the way, I am using the Kat Von D Go Big or Go Home mascara, which I really like. Actually, it's so small, compact, and the brush is just perfect for really getting really full, voluminous kind of eyelash effect essentially. By the way guys, it's the first time I'm wearing makeup in like 2 weeks because I've had a surgery done to my eyelid on the left. Again, I'm going to be posting a video about it, so you'll find out all about what's been going on there as well. So yeah, I remember having a chat with my boss, my supervisor, the same supervisor at the time, and before I started all this media work, I said, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And I remember she said, Bhasha, are you sure that's going to be not too much for you? Because it sounds like you've got so many things you want to do. And I said, yeah, you know, you're right. And I remember taking a mental step back, but then thinking, no, I'm going to do it anyway. And then when this cabinet for the Sun came up, she said, Bhasha, you know what, I don't think you should do it. And I said, okay. But then I thought, I'm not gonna listen, I'm gonna do it anyway. And it really was the best decision of my life at the time, because that then brought on these really cool opportunities to you know, interview the Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, things that I would not have usually ever have thought that would come my way, or how would I maneuver that situation, because I had no idea about politics at all. But I'm very much of an improvise and see how you get on kind of person. And I think that's the attitude in life that's kind of got me wherever it's got me, because I've thought, I'm probably not going to be very good at this, but let me give it a go anyway. I also bought my first home with my partner, and that is now a full-on renovation project. It's turned into this huge project, which I'm hoping is going to be something amazing as well, because I like to think of myself as a lucky girl that things just somehow turn out right in the end, and that is also something I'm practicing a lot this year, which is the lucky girl mindset and believing that things just work out in the end. I have just sat my final exam for GP to become a qualified GP, and I've passed it as well. Another big thing that happened this year was actually me discovering that I think I definitely am neurodivergent myself. I think I have a condition called ADHD, which I am now getting myself assessed for, and actually has built a new aspiration in my heart of wanting to become an assessor for ADHD, which I'm super excited about. And as I said, this whole concept of if you don't ask, you don't get, led me to ask my current supervisor in the current job that I'm at now about what can I do next to essentially amplify my interest and take it to the next level. And I think there's some great opportunities that are coming up in the current place I'm working at. Again, that lucky girl mindset, things just work out. Right, I'm just gonna get straight on and do my eyebrows, because the yapping was stopping me from making progress in this bit. And the worst thing with having ADHD, which I've realized, is that unless I have some sort of deadline, I really struggle with time management. But that does mean that I get things done in record speed at other times, because the way I manage that is that to keep myself stimulated, I essentially give myself so many tasks to do that I have to make sure that I get things done in time in order to get them all done. It's that dopamine chasing, you know, but yes. Anyway, so in summary, life update wise, I would say in my physicality, lots of things have changed. Lots of things that essentially brought me down, essentially, whether it was experiencing hair loss, you know, my body changing massively, essentially coming to terms with the idea that I am a former beauty queen, but I no longer look like that, and that's okay because I'm a new person. I've literally got rid of my clothes, a lot of my clothes from that era of my life, in order to make room for growth, in order to not hold on to the past and hold on to what I was and think that that's all I can ever be, in order to make room for being a new, better version of myself, essentially. And trust me, just making that room mentally made a world of difference, because when I let go, when I shed that skin, that old me, that's when the new thing started. And that also means changing the narrative around yourself as well, changing the narrative of who you are and what you stand for. It doesn't have to be stagnant. It doesn't have to be that, 2 years ago, I wanted to be this type of person and put myself in this particular box. 2 years ago, I saw myself as staying glamorous forever, essentially, and being able to, embody this glamorous doctor image. You become so mature with time, and you realize that you want different things as you get older, and you don't have to hold on to what you once wanted, because sometimes that means that you are not allowing for something even better than you ever imagined to kind of turn up. Did I ever think that I would kind of go on to interview the Prime Minister and ask him about his health policies? Did I ever think that was in my kind of agenda? No. 2-3 years ago, I wanted to be on a particular reality show. And now I see the type of people that come out of that particular reality show. And I don't want that for myself, you know? So I know better. I'm using this palette. It's called the Vortex palette by Revolution right here. And I'm using this gold shade right here to just put a little bit of shimmer on my eyelids. Another personal growth, I would say, is I still remember a very important person in my life told me after Miss England to try and do as much media stuff as I can whilst the stove is hot. Essentially saying that, oh, you know, this fame, all of this, whatever, is going to run out. It's going to go. So make sure that you essentially maximize the potential whilst you still can. And that's a big change in my mentality, because I used to think like that. And now what I've realized is that there was many times when I thought, oh, okay, I've reached the end. Even before Miss England, bear in mind, I essentially thought, okay, I'm not going to do any more of this stuff anymore. I'm going to quit modeling. I'm done with this. The very last thing I'm going to do, I'm ready to give this up. I'm actually ready to give this up because this is no longer giving me joy. Or even I thought, actually, I have maximized the potential of what I can do in this field. I don't want to do any more than this because I don't think there is any further room for that. And lo and behold, the next life-changing thing happened, which was Miss England. Same with just before I did my, got into the whole sphere of media and politics side of things. Again, I was ready to give up. I thought, well, I'm not really progressing very much. I'm not getting the best opportunities. Why should I bother carrying on with this? I guess I'll just do what happens, and I'll just see what happens, and I'll just put my attention elsewhere. And lo and behold, the next opportunity arises. So just what I've realized is just when things start feeling like they're not going to go any further, and then you're ready to give up, or you think that you have essentially come to the end of something, life surprises you. And as long as you keep an open mind and an open outlook, and you're receptive to what the world sends your way, opportunities are always going to come. They're not going to be things that you're going to miss out on. I have stopped feeling this FOMO like I used to before, that if I miss this particular opportunity, if I let this particular thing go, then that's it. I will lose out on something really big, and then there's the worst thing that's going to happen, and that's it. But actually, that's not true. And what now I have learned is that everything will happen in its own time, and what is written will happen, and no amount of chasing is going to make you get any closer to that goal. In fact, chasing, the only thing that's going to do is going to make you not appreciate the present, not be able to enjoy the present, not be able to stop and smell the roses because you're just too busy running. Equally, I've started to live by this motto of this too shall pass, and the idea that actually the good, the bad, all the times they do pass. And the thing that I'm fretting about right now, the thing that's upsetting me right now, that doesn't have to be defining my life. And actually, life always has potential to get better, as it does with getting worse, but it always gets better in the end. And if I consider myself a lucky girl, things will always work out in my favor. So I can't decide. I'm wearing red tonight, and I really can't decide what lipstick to wear. You're wearing this Milani lip shade in, well, it's a liquid lip in the colour Stay Put, I think. Anyway, we'll find out. That's one of the best parts about coming back to Derby. I kind of discover makeup that I'd forgotten about. I rewear it, and then it makes me happy again. And I'm like, ooh, that does look nice. I feel like this colour is a little bit too plain, but I think because I've gone a little bit heavier on the eyes, I'm going to go for this. And because I'm wearing all red in my body, I think this is probably a more appropriate shade, but I think this deserves a lip gloss. So I'm going to go in with the famous Clinique Black Honey lip gloss, which I think is a massive hype and not even that nice. Disappointing actually. Massively disappointing. That has taught me like nothing else. that completely ruined that. Yeah, I am now fully ready. I had to do majority of the hair and everything else behind the camera because it was just taking too long. I mean, I can yap, and we all know that. The only thing that's left now to do is put my outfit on. I will pop a video of my full outfit of the night. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this video right till the end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, drop me a like and share this video as well. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon. Mwah.